You're listening to the WBT Podcast with Michael Lodge. Listen to all of our podcasts at www.wbtpod.com. Stay informed. Let's get started.
And good morning, this is Mike Lodge. So glad that you're with me. It's a beautiful Florida morning, all cloudy, all rainy. Listen, today we're going to be talking about last night's Democratic debate and what we saw standing there as a socialist trying to defend socialism. And he failed badly. I'll be right back.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
Senator Sanders, this is a message for you. My parents escaped Cuba 60 years ago, fleeing a terrible tyrant called Fidel Castro. The worst Latin America has ever experienced since the arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492. That bad. No other revolution has been so cruel to so many people for so long, except the Cuban Revolution. It's not an authoritarian regime, it's a totalitarian regime. Fidel was a ruthless dictator. He destroyed the island, he killed thousands, he separated millions from their families. Still, here in Miami, we're suffering that. And now, 60 years later, you as the leading Democratic presidential candidate, you're praising him? You say he did some good things for the Cubans? He taught them how to read? What about those dead on the firing squad? Mr. Sanders, what are you thinking? And what about those dead eaten by the sharks in the Florida Strait trying to escape to Miami? Your words are very dangerous. You are confusing our children. Your message is scary. And it's very similar to Fidel's message about the United States. The United States is so bad and so much inequality, and Cuba is so great. I don't see anybody getting on a raft from Miami defying the sharks to go to Havana. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. And worst of all, you, Mr. Sanders, you know it. You're almost 80 years old, and you have lived it. You have seen what the Cuban Revolution did to my people, to my mom, to my dad, to my grandparents, to my uncles. And if you and your Democratic candidates, you take control of this country, we will lose the United States of America. And my children, my two girls, will not have the future I was able to have here in Miami when my parents fled that very island you praise so much. You are no good.
Bottom line is that unless the Democratic establishment steals it from them, Bernie Sanders, a Democratic Socialist, is going to be the Democratic nominee for president. And that's a really big deal because Democratic Socialism sounds benign, but at the core of Democratic Socialism is Marxism. And at the core of Marxism is this fake offer that if you turn over more of your individual freedom, we're going to provide you security. We're going to provide you free healthcare. We're going to provide you free education. But the problem is that when they can't deliver on it or when you're not happy with it, you don't get your freedoms back. And by freedoms, I don't just mean elections. I'm talking about the right to choose your own doctor, the right to make healthcare decisions for yourself, what your kids learn in school, what schools they go to. All that stuff you lose control over, and you don't get it back just because the security they promised you didn't happen. So that's what we're on the verge of having to decide here in this country. It's a reason why people flee countries that have this stuff. It's a big deal for America, and I hope people start waking up to that reality.
So we hear of two individuals, both families coming from Cuba, who have lived through this situation of Fidel Castro and socialism and communism. Two Floridians, two Cubans, two Cuban families who are trying to tell you, trying to warn you that socialism does not work. It never has worked. It never will work. In all the countries that they have tried to do this, it has not worked. And that's a big deal. It's a very big deal. When an American politician who has spent most of his life defending communism and socialism and is now trying to force it down onto the American people, we have a problem. We have a situation where an individual has become so popular because he talks about this free stuff just like Castro did. Just like all of the individuals who push this free stuff. It's been a ploy of socialists and socialism for years and years and years. And it continues to this day. See, you see, socialism is this philosophy that says, if I promise to give all these people free stuff, free education, free healthcare, free, and whatever the list is, that I will be able to win them over because then I will have control over them. I will have control over who they go to the hospital, what hospital they go to, what doctor they see. They cannot do anything unless I tell them. And that is the biggest problem that we have. It's very sad to see this happening in our country. It's very sad to see people falling for this type of nonsense. It's very sad to see young people clamor because they're in student debt. They have so much student debt, which, by the way, is a choice. They chose to go into that student debt. They signed on the bottom line. They made a commitment to get an education, but also to pay for that education. So a socialist comes along and says, listen, I will wipe all that away. And by the way, if you have a criminal record for using marijuana, I'll wipe all that away. Free stuff. So what did we see last night? What did we see last night on the debate stage? Well, we saw a bunch of Democrats, far left, flailing their arms around trying to get attention on television. Raising their hand, trying to get the people's attention, and all of them said the exact same stuff. No one has changed, and no one will change. All of them are dangerous to this nation. If you look at Bernie Sanders' free stuff, and if you look at Elizabeth Warren's free stuff, they have no way to add up numbers to tell us how they're going to pay for all that free stuff. Their adding ability only goes to free. And so Bernie Sanders wanted to put the squash on people saying, well, he hasn't explained how he's going to pay for this stuff. So he came out with this piece of paper and waved it in front of the meeting and says, this is the answer. It's on my website. And so people begin looking at his website and begin to say, nothing adds up. What they're saying this is going to cost, they're not bringing in enough revenue to pay for it. So time and time again, we see these individuals saying, this free stuff we can pay for, but they cannot pay for it unless they literally take the current budget that we have and apply it all towards that free stuff. That's the only way that they can pay for it, is if they take all of the other expenditures that we have and pay for this free stuff. And they're going to have to raise the taxes, not on the wealthy, but on every single American that has a job out there. That's how it's going to work. Bernie Sanders' numbers do not add up. I want you to look at them very carefully. Go to his website and look at them. They do not add up. They do not make sense. He has no explanation as to how he's going to pay for all this freaking free stuff. Bernie Sanders' his math ability only adds up to free. And that's the problem with socialism, is that they believe that everything can be paid for. But the problem is that they run out of money. They can no longer pay for this stuff. And so the individuals who work in these hospitals and clinics and every place else where you're supposed to get this free health care, they can no longer get paid because there's no money left to pay. Then health care goes away. Because now people have to wait 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, 60 days trying to get in to see their physician. In every single country that they've tried to work socialism, it has never worked at all. Oh, they try to prop it up and prop it up and prop it up, but yet the quality of healthcare goes so far down that they can no longer be taken care of. This free stuff just does not work. I know it sounds good. I know it sounds so nice, especially if you are a student and you're looking at $30,000 or $40,000 worth of educational debt or loan debt on schooling. But I'm telling you right now, you made that decision to go into debt. You made that decision. You signed on the bottom line. Now, you had options, but you chose not to look at those other options. Or no one explained to you what those other options were. So you went into debt. You made that decision. That was your decision, not mine. I did not make that decision for you. You made it. So thus, you're responsible for it. But as a young kid, I know that you're sitting there and you're saying, I've got to get rid of this debt. And if Bernie Sanders can do it, I'm willing to give up all my other freedoms, all my other choices that I can make as a human being, just so that I can get this debt taken care of. But that's not how the real world works. If you signed for it, you're responsible for it. That was your decision to do that, not mine. And I don't see why I should have to pay, or why my next door neighbor should have to pay for your bad decision. That was your decision, not mine. But yet you want to force your politics down onto me, force your socialism ideology down onto me because you want that free stuff. You're desperate and you're selfish at the same time. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to live with it. Because socialism is too big of a threat to our liberties and to our freedoms that I will fight you tooth and nail so I keep that freedom. I will not be subject to socialism. Bernie Sanders goes around and brings you all of these promises, but he can't pay for it, and I'm telling you that right now. Take it from an accountant who's been around and seen a lot of stuff, and I'm telling you that if you look at his numbers, they don't make sense. None of them on that stage last night make sense. And that is a disservice to this political process because they cannot explain how they're going to pay. Why would you go into a business deal with somebody if you don't know what the financial results are going to be? Why? Why would you buy a new car when you don't know what the interest rates are going to be? You just sign on it because you think it's going to be free? No, there are consequences. big time consequences. Not one single thing that they said last night could they explain how they were going to pay for it. They can't explain it because they don't know what the costs are going to be. They don't know. Even Bernie Sanders, in his television interviews, he has said, when asked, how much is this going to cost, he says, I don't know. I don't know isn't a good enough answer. When you're dealing with my livelihood, you're dealing with my tax dollars, you're dealing with my money, you're dealing with my healthcare, you're dealing with everything, my whole life practically under socialism, but you can't tell me how much it's going to cost because I don't know. They don't know. That, my friends, is disgusting. No one should ever sit there and believe anything if you don't know what the costs are going to be. Now they say, well, we're going to do this and we'll be able to save here and we'll do that. No, it never happens because in socialists, any tax money that comes in, they immediately spend. If you look at the state of California, which is a socialist state, every tax dollar that they can glean from the Californians there, they will do it. Just yesterday, they came out with a story. When they started the lottery, that money was supposed to go to the public school system. Well, now they're finding out that hardly any money is going to the public school system. It's all being siphoned off by the state of California for other things and not education. But they keep trying to raise all of these propositions for more money for schools, but that money never ever goes to school. Just like the gas tax there. They said all this gas tax is going to go for infrastructure for the state of California. It never went. It never goes there. So the roads keep crumbling. Things keep falling down. Potholes get bigger and bigger, but nothing ever gets paid for because that money that was supposed to go there through those gasoline taxes go other places. That is what socialism does, and that's what's happened to California. And if you look at the failure of California, and if you look at their failed healthcare system, you look at their failed education system, they are the lowest of the states in their education. The poverty rates are the highest in the states of this great country. They are the highest. The homeless population is half of the nation. That is what socialism does. It wastes billions and billions of dollars. And if you think that Bernie is going to be able to manage his socialist ideals and how he's going to spend his money, he can never do it because right now he has been very honest with you because he doesn't know how much it's going to cost, and that goes to you as a voter. If you vote that in, if you vote his philosophy in, if you vote socialism in, we will never know what the costs are going to be, and we are going to be sucked dry of our wages and our business money and everything else that we work for. When people can't tell you how much it's going to cost, run as fast as possible. I would never go into a business deal not knowing what the results are going to be, what the costs are going to be, what the expenses are going to be, what the risks are going to be. I'm not going to walk into a business deal where I don't have some type of foundation to know what the possible end is going to be. That would be stupid on my part. Just as it is as stupid as a voter voting for a socialist system where you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the costs are. You know that they're great. We already know that they're going to be great. They're going to be trillions and trillions of dollars. And that trillions of dollars has to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from you and me. I have been in third world countries. I have been in socialist countries. And I'm telling you, people there are not happy. They're miserable. I have been in countries where there are literally coups happening, and I had to stay in my offices because I couldn't go out because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to erupt in the streets because there was a coup trying to take down a president or a premier, prime minister. I have been in those countries and I have experienced it. And I see the same thing coming to America if you vote socialism. You're going to see an angry mob of Americans. Because they were lied to. And Americans hate to be lied to. If you want civil war in this nation, you vote for socialism. If you want chaos in this nation, you vote for socialism. If you want an unjust criminal system, vote for socialism. If you want a corrupt political environment, vote for socialism. Because socialism develops into corruption. Every single socialist country out there, that's what has happened. So I'm listening to the debate last night and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what people are seeing in this kind of conversation. People yelling at each other, putting each other down, trying to slam each other. Not a single ounce of leadership on that stage. Not a single ounce of leadership on that Democratic debate stage. Nothing. At least with Trump, we knew exactly what he wanted to do. We knew that he wanted to lower taxes. We knew that he wanted to strengthen our military. We knew that he wanted to work on the healthcare system. We knew that he wanted to work on immigration and the protection of America. We knew all this, and that's what we got because he upheld his promises. But we knew this up front. But everything that he said he was going to do wasn't for his socialist dream. He had no socialist dream. It was based upon what was good for America. And Americans knew that our political system had become corrupt. And we needed someone to go in there and clean house. And he's tried to do as much of that as he possibly can of cleaning house. But when you've got such a dirty, corrupt political system, it's very difficult to do, but he has tried and he has done it. And now we know how bad the FBI was and the Department of Justice was. If it wasn't for Trump, we would never have known any of this was happening. And how corrupt and sneaky and deviant these individuals were. And are, even to this day. And then we saw how the political left tried to do a coup. They tried to illegally take down a president. And they worked on it for 3 years. From the day that he became president until even to this very day as I speak. They're still trying to take down this man. Now the Democrats are coming out saying that President Trump is responsible for this virus. And how he hasn't planned and how he hasn't protected America. Well, so far I haven't seen that many people come down in America from that virus. CDC has managed it. Listen, I was caught up with SARS, if you remember SARS. I remember landing in Tokyo from America. Landing in Tokyo. They would not allow us to get off the plane. They handed out masks to all of us. Then about a dozen individuals boarded the plane dressed in hazmat gear with a full face gear, everything, with little guns that pointed at us to see if we had a temperature or not. I remember the SARS scare, and it was big, but it went away. Just like this new virus will go away. Because the temperatures and everything else play into this. But he's correct in closing down certain countries that have a higher volume of this virus. He has every right as president to protect us by doing that. So don't think that this is some type of Muslim ban or Asian ban or whatever you want to call it because you're a leftist. This is to protect this nation. And the way that you protect it is by shutting the doors from those countries that have the highest population of this virus. That is the right and smart thing to do. You contain it. We do have people here in the United States that are infected because they were traveling abroad or came in contact with somebody that traveled abroad. But our problem is that we have a communist country, a socialist country of China who is hiding everything about how they have been affected. It's much bigger over there than what we actually know. But that's what happens in socialist countries. They quiet the news. They limit the amount of information that goes out. Because that's their control policy. So on last night's stage, we really learned nothing new. We saw the same old, same old. We saw the same old remarks, the same old attacks, the same old waving of hands, the same old nonsense that goes every single time the Democrats have a debate. It's nothing but nonsense. How in the world do you know what the policies of these individuals are going to be if they're constantly They're constantly attacking each other. They're constantly putting each other down. This is how a Democratic thing reads. There's nothing positive about a Democratic debate anymore. Or about the Democratic candidates. It's either women against men, blacks against white, racism against whatever it's about, poor against rich, rich against poor. And basically it is a conversation of about bad. It's everything is bad in the Democratic mind. Everything. And it's so funny to me that Bernie Sanders is going around saying how great Fidel Castro was and how he helped his people, but yet he will not even talk about President Trump and how he has helped America and the great economy that's out there and the jobs that have been created in all sectors of racism. He will not talk about that because the socialist view is that everything is a failure unless it's a socialist program. And that's what has happened with the Democratic Party is that they have become such a party of hate and all they want to talk about is how bad America is. But they never talk about how good America is. Each and every single one of us, we get up, we put our pants on in the morning, and we go to work, and we try to survive, and we try to work, and we try to create businesses, and we try all this stuff, and we try to raise our families, and we're doing a good job at it. But in the socialist and democratic view, you are failing. So we have got to get away from this failure message because it's doing absolutely nothing that helps us. The message of the Democratic Party and the Socialist Party is we want to see you fail. We love to see you fail. We get all giddy because we see you failing. And they hate it when Americans are a success. People who started from nothing and become a multimillionaire, become a billionaire, those people are evil. So, what we learned from last night's Democratic Party, their television show, we might as well call it the WWF or some WWE or something. Because that's all I saw was a bunch of old white people fighting with each other and calling each other names. And I saw nothing of hope for America. All those people standing there putting America down and putting in uplifting socialism. I saw no hope for America there. I saw no love of country. Nothing. No love of the American people, nothing. It became a love of a political agenda of socialism and socialist programs? Why are we even considering a process of socialism that has never worked? Why would we even consider a non-workable system? Yeah, they can put a name tag on it. They can call it a Democratic Socialist. They can do it. But a socialist is a socialist, and you cannot take bright red lipstick and put it on a pig and make him look beautiful, because socialism is not beautiful at all. So Americans, come on. Let's get smart about this, okay? I think we've heard enough. I think we've heard enough from these people. Walk away from this socialist maniac called Bernie Sanders, because it's not a good system for you and me. Yeah, it's good for those people who owe college tuition fees and college debt. But that's a selfish reason to put Americans into jeopardy, into a risk factor, just because it benefits you and it harms the rest of the nation. We need to do something better, people. America is so beautiful. It's a country where each and every single one of us have family members who came here from another country and who have made it at some point in their life. And they came to this country because they knew that we had the freedoms and the liberties and the independence, that they could do anything they wanted to do. Under socialism, they were trying to escape socialism. They were trying to escape dominant regimes that told them what they could and couldn't do. People came here from Armenia, people came here from Russia, people came here from all of these countries, from Vietnam, from China. Everyone trying to get to a nation where they are going to be free in their independence. They don't want to be told what they can and cannot do anymore, because they see Americans walking around here making our own damn decisions, because that's what Americans do. And now you want to vote in socialism that takes all of that away. Doesn't make any sense. And now we have people here in Florida who escaped from Cuba. And I remember this. I remember I was young at the time, which was a long time ago. But I remember seeing those people on rafts and boats and whatever they could get, even pieces of wood, trying to float across the Florida waters from Cuba to here in shark-infested waters. Some made it, some did not make it. Sometimes boats sank. Sometimes there were so many people on those boats trying to escape socialism and communism there in Cuba that their boats sank and they all died. We had boats and rafts coming and landing on the shores of Florida, but people forget about that. Because the majority of the people that are voting for Bernie Sanders never got to live through that. They never got to see it. They never got to see the faces of the individuals as they landed in America, knowing that they had just escaped Cuba and they're now in the land of freedom, and they kissed the ground as soon as they reached the shores. But America came together and they brought these people in. And now if you look at the Cuban community in Miami and all of Florida, they're very successful people because they came here and they got the ability. They had the ability to do whatever they wanted to do, not what a country wanted them to do, but what they wanted to do. I want you to go back. If you have never studied this part of history of America, go back, watch those videos and watch those people floating across the water. Sometimes for day upon ends because the wind would end or something, or they ran out of gas and they literally sat there and the United States Coast Guard would go in and rescue them. We're just a few miles off the shores of Cuba, here in southern Florida. We are reminded of Cuba every single day. The Cuban people here still have family members that they do not know where they ever went to because Fidel Castro came in, souped them up, and took them away someplace, and they were never heard of again. He ran concentration camps. If you did not believe in what he said, he ran concentration camps. And yet you have, or he would take you out and shoot you. He would have firing lines and take you out and shoot you and then bury you in the ground. And yet you have Bernie Sanders who supported Fidel Castro. And now he says, well, I didn't like the authoritarian ways, but yet he supported Castro. He looked the other way when Castro was doing all this stuff. He never condemned them. Never condemned them. He was always in support. He even flew there, visited with them. He went to Russia, visited with them. Came back with glowing reports of how great their governments were. And yet these people were being slaughtered. They were being killed. They were being stood up in front of trees and a bullet running through their heads and through their hearts. And those that had the guts, those that had the willingness to take any kind of a risk to get on a raft that was filled with air and go across the ocean waters to America just so that they could have that freedom, that independence. They didn't want socialism anymore. They didn't want communism anymore. They did not want Fidel Castro anymore. They came to America to escape all that, and yet Bernie Sanders stands there and he praises them even today. I'm sorry, to stand there and praise a country who has a reading program for children who are reading Marxist propaganda, that's not what you praise a country for. A country that takes these young kids and takes them off to a camp, makes them work as hard as possible, and then when they're no longer usable, they shoot them and get rid of them. That is not what America is about. But Bernie Sanders thinks it's good. He thinks it's a good system. But now he says it's authoritarian. He doesn't agree with it, but he has never come out when he was saying all that good stuff about Cuba and Nicaragua and Venezuela and all these countries. He never condemns the authoritarianism that goes on. I just don't get it, America. Listen, we have a few days, 200 and some odd days. I can't remember how much longer it is for election. But if you are considering Bernie Sanders, I really want you to take a very serious look, because what we saw on last night's stage was not what America should have. We are an independent nation, and we need to remain that way. Because independency gives us a voice, and that voice gives us the ability to choose the individuals that represent us. And right now, what's in Congress is not good. What's in the United States Senate is not good. Who these people are who are running for presidency are not good. We have a lot of work to do. We are Americans. We know what to do for our country. Socialism is not it. I'll talk with you soon. If you have any questions or comments, send me a text at 818-252-5682. 818-252-5682, and I will be more than happy to respond to you. This is Mike Lodge. Everybody go out and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.